WVEC-TV, Plan.
Time for Buttons Wave or two, and here we go.
This is Jim Kincaid, ABC News.
13 News takes you beyond the front lines of Iraq, into the American medical units, saving lives. The amazing lifeline of doctors, nurses, and medics, protecting and caring for wounded. Why more injured are surviving this war. Monday at 6, 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett shows you an unprecedented glimpse inside the system, healing the heroes. Monday on 13 News at 6.
Today, a bus bombing in Baghdad killed at least 20 people in a Shiite Muslim neighborhood. Every
day, more U.S. troops, civilians, and insurgents are killed and injured in Iraq. 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett recently spent time at a military hospital in Balad. And Kathryn, treating the wounds, this is not something for the faint at heart.
And you know, the Air Force medics, the doctors, the nurses, and the medics that we were with at a tent hospital in Iraq do it every day and night, 24/7. I was in Balad, Iraq during October, the third deadliest month for American troops since the war began. In my reports, you'll meet medics from Hampton Roads and around the country healing the heroes with speed and devotion. Under the morning sun, sheep wander. Above a swirling sunset, a mosque poses. But in Iraq, tranquility is brief. It's broken by the sound of helicopters and the sight of war wounded. Day and night, casualties arrive at this tent hospital at Balad Air Base. It's about 40 miles north of Baghdad in a former power base of Saddam Hussein, and now home to the Air Force 332nd Air Expeditionary Wing. It's the heart of the war's air operations. The injured arrive from Baghdad, Mosul, Fallujah.
It's an IED blast or a gunshot wound to the face. Sometimes you don't know anything.
The types of wounds in this war, devastating.
We just don't see these injuries back home at all.
My injuries are, I had some shrapnel to my lower left leg, and it got my right hand, which I was steering with.
A roadside bomb explodes into the truck Specialist Justin Pelham is driving into Crete. Medics get him to a hospital close to the action. 24 hours later, he's medevaced to Balad's trauma center to save his hand.
After that, I couldn't look at it, so I knew it was pretty bad.
Like Justin, more injured are surviving this war because of better body armor, medical care closer to battle, and speed in getting them out.
And so it's very critical that we get the patients to life-saving hemostatic or controlling of the bleeding surgeries quickly.
Critically wounded may arrive within just hours of their injury.
This afternoon, there are 4 helicopters on the hospital landing pad bringing in and taking out both Americans and Iraqis.
Which bay? They're going in 3. Take a hole, please.
Iraqi insurgents, civilians, and American forces, all under the same tent.
Bob, I was in an accident today.
Rifleman John Beaver is heading to hand out candy and school supplies in Mosul when a suicide vehicle explodes into his truck.
It had about 500 pounds of explosives in it, and he hit the side of our truck.
Now deaf from the explosion, his only injury, I write my questions.
Some doctors are saying I'll get about 50% of my hearing back. Some doctors are saying I'll get 75 to 80% of my hearing back. So I can only hope.
Standing guard in Karma, Iraq, Marine Robert Wild is attacked by small arms, rocket-propelled grenades, and a suicide vehicle bomb.
I have a real bad concussion and a possible neck injury. It's not broken or nothing. It's just they got to do more tests to let me know what's going on.
2 minutes out to your urgent letters, correct?
Evening in the emergency room.
OR1.
And 5 new patients are moved through.
Then, within 16 minutes, Balad ER filled up with 6 patients. Day shift, night shift, whoever was available came running.
A medic allows a moment of emotion.
Oh my God. Our people are getting just blown up, and it's hard to stomach it sometimes. It's hard to believe that
this is happening every day, every hour out there.
Then the quiet of healing is punctuated by the signal of new arrivals like Robert, Justin, and John.
Take a hold, please.
Coming up on 13 News at 11, we go into the operating room with specialist Justin Pelham as the medical staff tries to save his leg and hand. You can see my reports again on WVEC.com, and during the week, we're going to be adding uncut interviews to the website with the brave and dedicated service members we met in Iraq.
Suicide vehicles and sniper fire are the insurgents' newest tactic against American troops in Iraq. 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett and photographer Mike Babcock saw the injuries they inflict firsthand during the deadly month of October. They went to Balad Air Base to see the most advanced combat hospital in Iraq. Their stay included open access to the medical system that heals the heroes.
Justin Pelham was driving a truck in a convoy when the Iraqi insurgents' favorite weapon, a roadside bomb, exploded.
I was driving. We slowed down, thought we saw something suspicious. It turned out to be nothing. And then all I remember after that is feeling the burn and the big blast that hit me.
The Army rifleman glimpsed his mangled hand before medics reached him.
After that, I couldn't look at it. So I knew it was pretty bad. And I know I had shrapnel in my left leg.
In this war, the military's medical evacuation system is built on speed. Within 24 hours, medics got Pelham to a field hospital. Doctors stabilized him and put him on a chopper to this Air Force tent hospital, a level 1 trauma center. Here, he's wheeled to an operating room to clean his wounds. The unspoken hope is to save the soldier's hand and leg.
This is where the reality of war really breaks your heart. Justin has lost about 3 fingers and the tip of another and doesn't even know it.
And his lower leg is missing a lot of muscle.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking. I mean, in a way, it's inhuman. But we're here on the mission of saving lives, putting people back together again with the hopes that they'll go on to enjoy the rest of their lives with minimal disabilities.
Many patients are Iraqi civilians and soldiers with severe injuries, including amputations. Their surgeons worry what will happen to them.
You know, when we were taking care of that girl this morning, it was pretty quiet in the room, because of how horrible the injuries are. And quite frankly, we've heard that some of these children are just going to go home and their family's just going to put them into a corner and they're not going to survive.
We talk about conditions in operating rooms in a tent hospital.
This is a container, not a tent, right?
Right, yeah. It's a hard, and so there's maybe a little bit better protection against like a mortar hitting.
Mortar attacks happen regularly at the combined air base and Army compound nicknamed Camp Mortaritaville. We found out the reality of war and the seriousness of security our first night here. We were in the dining hall having dinner when we heard over the loudspeaker, "Incoming, incoming." Immediately, everyone hit the floor, including my photographer and me, face down under the tables, and we heard boom off in the distance. We got the all clear. In spite of occasional scares, the medical staff worries more about those who are outside the fence.
You can see guys driving up and down the streets of outside the base here, and you're like, I'm glad I'm here. And but those guys that go out there every day, they're pretty very brave, and so anything we can do for them, help them get back to normal life after sustaining injuries, is quite frankly an honor.
And that's why you find a Superman pillow in Balad, Iraq, and a handmade Purple Heart.
Now, tomorrow on 13 News at 6, Kathryn travels on board a flying critical care unit that quickly gets Specialist Pelham out of the war zone. She'll introduce you to a Portsmouth nurse and a special team of Air Force medics devoted to healing the heroes. And you can watch her reports again on WVEC.com. Injured troops on the move. An Air Force C-17 refitted to become a flying ICU.
The giant aircraft leaves Iraq under the cover of darkness with critically ill patients. And 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett, you were on board. This is a nerve-rattling flight.
Absolutely. These flights that carry war wounded out, they fly with lights out. We wear flak vests and helmets for takeoff out of Iraq. On board, a soldier and a Marine we already know from a combat hospital in Iraq. And a medical team, including a nurse from Portsmouth, works 24-hour shifts healing the heroes. Under the cover of darkness and roar of jet engines, the war wounded are carefully loaded onto an Air Force C-17. It's 1:30 in the morning. Everyone has to wear flak vests and helmets because the entire base is under a potential threat from insurgents. A C-17, a big target, so with wounded on board, it flies at night. It's been shot at, but never had to turn back. Less than 2 hours earlier, the aircraft landed packed to the brim with cargo for war, utility trucks, Humvees, and stacks of pallets.
I think it's pretty phenomenal what we do. It's not just turning it into a hospital aircraft, but just a huge transport system for moving patients from one area to the other.
The new cargo contains familiar faces, soldiers and Marines we met in the tent hospital at Balad, Iraq. Justin Pelham lost part of his hand and leg when a roadside bomb exploded in Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's hometown.
Then from here, I then went to Germany and back home in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Got a girlfriend and a family just waiting for me.
A day and a half before this flight, Robert Wild was standing guard in the Anbar town of Karma when he was thrown in a blast from a rocket-propelled grenade and other gunfire.
I was told that I could be sent to Germany to do more testing because I have some mental loss.
These Air-Evac flights leave Balad Air Base in Iraq for Ramstein Air Base in Germany for a higher level of care at an Army hospital. As the death toll in the war reaches near record levels during our visit, the number of flights for the wounded increase. 3 times a week, this flight goes in and out of Balad. More trips are scheduled if they're necessary, which of course means there are more wounded. This week alone, there were 5. Many with a flying intensive care unit back in the corner, a team of 3 devoted to the critically injured.
I'm a critical care air transportation nurse in the Air Force, stationed in San Antonio, and I grew up in the Norfolk area.
Air Force Captain Ellie O'Hara, a Portsmouth native, makes this trip 3 times a week.
It makes me feel good to know that, I can just try to get him out as quickly as possible.
The critical care team doesn't take their eyes off as many as 3 critical patients at once. Their ICU, a tangle of oxygen and power cables in loud, sometimes bumpy, and always stressful conditions.
I think what's unique is the fact that we're using portable equipment to run essentially an intensive care unit in the back of a plane, which it seems amazing to me that we can do that.
The doctors, nurses, and medics cover one link in the system that gets the war wounded home to the United States.
Sometimes you see a Purple Heart on your patients coming back from the field, and it just hits you.
A link the critically ill will not remember, and others will remember for a lifetime.
Pretty much everywhere I've been, people have been really nice. And everywhere I go, I thank them for what they've done and what they're doing to me.
The Critical Air Transport Teams, or CCATs, the load masters, pilots, and medics are all part of the Air Force Air Mobility Command. You can see my report again on WVEC.com, and we're going to start posting my full uncut interviews with many of the people I met in Iraq and on the Air-Evac flights, too. Kathryn Barrett, 13 News.
On Capitol Hill today, the top U.S. commander in the Middle East warned Congress against setting a timetable for the withdrawal of troops from Iraq.
That as some Democrats are pressing the Bush administration to begin pulling out U.S. troops within 6 months. Meanwhile, the daily reports of injuries and deaths continue.
13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett joins us now with an inside look of the Army hospital in Germany. And Kathryn, this is the last stop before they head back home.
Exactly. Now, military medicine for the war wounded is based on 2 things: speed and steps. From Iraq, the war wounded are flown to Landstuhl Army Medical Center, the largest military hospital outside the U.S. They have one more surgery or one more test to make sure they're stable enough for a 10-hour flight to American soil.
Landing at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. So cool and damp, out come the blankets. So loud, airmen use hand signals to coordinate offloading their human cargo. Their next destination, Landstuhl Army Medical Center, a 20-minute drive. Its shiny floors and firm ceilings, a far cry from the dusty tent hospital they entered in Balad, Iraq.
Here at Landstuhl, the idea is to get the most critically wounded service members in, stabilized, and out as quickly as possible. Sometimes that's a matter of just days.
Landstuhl is the last stop on the wounded warriors' route to American soil from images they can't erase. In Mosul.
The mortars started hitting the ground everywhere.
In Baghdad.
It's not out of the ordinary for them people to try to attack us.
In Diwania.
We got hit by a couple IEDs, RPG fire, small arms.
Colonel Stephen Flaherty is head of trauma at Landstuhl. He says more service members are surviving attacks because medical care is closer to them, what's called being far forward.
Three most important things that we have done to help stop bleeding in this war are to get tourniquets out to the point of injury, to get dressings forward that can help stop bleeding, and to use products at the level of the hospital that can improve the clotting within the body.
Having medical care close to a mortar attack on her base likely saved this Army specialist's life.
And I said, I feel like the wind was knocked out of me, and he looked and opened up my shirt, and he's like, oh my God. And then they got the first aid kit, the bag, tied a pressure dressing around me, and then they finally got a first aid a truck to come and pick me up, take me to the hospital. And I guess it went through my colon, the piece of strap metal, and they rushed me to the emergency, or the operating room.
An incision stapled together descends the sergeant's chest.
Zig when I should have zagged.
Troops are told to walk in a zigzag motion on patrol to avoid sniper fire.
We've seen the insurgents everywhere. Where you go, there they are.
But snipers they can't see are now sending more and more Americans home through Germany. And at Ramstein, another C-17 heads to retrieve war wounded, a scene that repeats like a play with no final act.
Landstuhl receives about 25 new war injured every day. Tonight on 13 News at 11, a new story, Going Home, the moving experience of being on board an Air Force flying intensive care unit with 39 injured service members heading back to the States. You can see all my reports from Iraq and Germany on WVEC.com. Kathryn Barrett, 13 News.
While Washington argues war strategy, one thing doesn't change. American service members are wounded, some critically, in extraordinary numbers. 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett has an unprecedented look at the effort that goes into bringing the war wounded home. Tonight she's on board a special medical flight from Germany as those injured, some just days earlier, grasp they are going home.
Each time the war wounded are moved, they're taken to a higher level of medical care, lined with stretchers 3 deep. This C-17 in the Air Mobility Command will take the wounded from Germany to American soil.
We're getting ready for takeoff on the last flight for our mission and the flight home for all these injured service members. There are 39 on board, 19 on stretchers.
A sniper's bullet shattered Lance Corporal Aaron Musk's leg while his platoon checked civilian cars in Fallujah.
And all of a sudden a loud shot rang out, and next thing I knew, I was on the ground and I got hit in my femur.
Long metal rods stabilize his broken leg until Musk arrives at Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington. The aircraft is full of victims from the Iraqi insurgents' latest war tactic.
Well, we have 3 critically ill patients on this flight. All are gunshot wounds, 1 to the head, 1 through the abdomen, and 1 through the chest.
Major Danny Canlis used to work at the hospital at Langley Air Force Base. Now he's part of a team that cares for only the most critically injured on these flights.
It must be terribly intensive for you to take care of these patients under these conditions.
Well, it is a challenge. As you see how loud it is, it's also very noisy and time different.
For the 9-hour flight, the Critical Care Air Transport Team of 3 is focused on keeping their patients stable.
breaks my heart to see that they're so young and that, you know, they're hurt. And it is an honor for us to basically take them home.
The wounded are on the pilots' minds, too.
It gives you a sense of pride to say that these guys are fighting for your country.
These Air Force reservists alternate flying cargo into Iraq and the war wounded out.
You've flown these missions. What's been the most moving experience you've had?
You have guys with chains on them that you don't even know what they are. You know, they have. It's just really sad to see, and guys back there truly fighting for their life.
Co-pilot Robert Four says it was more stressful for him to land his first flight with injured troops than to fly into a combat zone.
You need to land this jet really hard or really soft, and this time I landed it really soft, and I don't think I'll ever be able to top that one.
As we get closer to Andrews Air Force Base, the atmosphere on board changes. It's on purpose to help troops who were on a battlefield days ago get ready for home.
It's a convection oven, and it cooks really fast.
Even the subtle aroma of chocolate chip cookies baking helps the injured adjust mentally to the change.
And so I think we kind of relax them and prep them for coming back to the States.
Home for the next weeks or months, a hospital.
How about your mind transitioning from combat to home?
It's been kind of tough. I mean, just hearing loud noises sometimes, you know, that kind of startles me, but I'm getting more and more used to the fact that I'm out of the combat area and I'm going to a secure area.
To a place where their new battle plan will be to rebuild their bodies.
I think there's no greater satisfaction than bringing these injured heroes home.
Kathryn said goodbye as the injured men and women were put on buses and sent to Walter Reed Army Medical Center and Bethesda Naval Hospital. Tomorrow on 13 News at 6, Kathryn introduces you to the hometown heroes she met while in Iraq. Thousands of U.S. troops lay their lives on the line every day in the war in Iraq.
All week, we've given you an inside view of the medical system that gets the wounded to combat tent hospitals and onto special medical flights out of Iraq. 13 News medical editor Kathryn Barrett has a special look at the hometown heroes healing the troops.
Balad Air Force Base Combat Hospital.
Okay, we have number 2 open. Go to 2.
Where 600 to 800 patients are treated every month. Wounded American and Iraqi troops, Iraqi civilians and insurgents. The voices of medics and nurses, often drowned out by helicopters arriving with more war wounded at the tent hospital. The combat hospital team quick, cautious, and choreographed. In the same tent hospital, we find Suffolk's Dr. Ann Fenton, who works at Langley Air Force Base and volunteered to come. She treats the most common health problem for the men stationed in Iraq. Dehydration causes it.
And if I'm the only urologist here, so I'm on call 24/7 for my duration here. And the majority of what I treat here is kidney stones.
Amid the drama and devotion is a Predator, the unmanned aerial surveillance system. And ping pong, too. And 2 constant sounds. One on the ground, the other in the air.
Actually, the aeromedical evacuations, here's a C-17 right now, make up just a small part of the overall big picture here at Balad Air Base, where there are about 600 takeoffs and landings every day.
Lieutenant Colonel Alvin Vann, whose family is in Portsmouth and Suffolk, commands the Air Control Squadron at Balad.
So we make sure that we can accomplish our mission without getting in the way of all the commercial traffic flying overhead. We also ensure that every aircraft that flies over Iraq can be identified and we know exactly who they are.
Miles of gray concrete barriers protect barracks and tents. Artwork on them brightens the gray and beige scenery. A country singer from Nashville brightens the mood.
We have the troops tell us every time we do a show anywhere that it just uplifts their spirit and it takes them away from what they're doing on a regular basis just for a couple hours.
Look at here! Kenny's down to Margaritaville.
Escorting the musicians, First Colonial High School graduate Sean Campbell.
I'm actually from Virginia Beach, and I am here working on an Air Expeditionary Force rotation in Baghdad. And one of the things that I work on is trying to give a little piece of home to the troops that are deployed wherever they happen to be in Iraq.
Get you some.
Little pieces of home, a Superman pillow in Balad's combat hospital. Sandwiches on air evacuation flights that take the war wounded from the combat zone to a military hospital back home.
It's just really sad to see, and guys back there truly fighting for their life, fighting for our country.
Portsmouth native Ellie O'Hara helps the most critically injured on their way home.
Is it hard for you to see critically injured soldiers all the time?
It is. It's very hard. Sometimes the harder ones are when they're awake and they're talking to you, want to talk about what happened, and sometimes that's a little harder. But a lot of them, are recovering and doing very well, and makes me feel good to know that, I can just try to get them out as quickly as possible.
These are just some of the unforgettable faces healing the heroes.
Thank you for the many emails and voicemails expressing concern and support for our trip to the combat zone. You can watch all my reports from Iraq and Germany on WVEC.com. See the snapshots I took. I'm not a very good photographer. And we're posting interviews start to finish, so you can hear everything the people I talked to had to say about healing the heroes. Kathryn Barrett, 13 News.